Hey, what's up guys? I'm KBHD here, and today we're going to be talking about battery tips. And by battery tips, I mean mostly tips that are going to help you get your battery to last longer on devices like smartphones and tablets. Now right off the bat, I just want you to know there's no like magical cure or magical thing that you can do to your device. Typically there's nothing crazy you can do to get an extra 1.5 million hours out of it or get it to last all day if it only lasts 3 or 4 hours to begin with. But there are some things you can keep an eye on to keep your battery from draining. A lot of devices just drain the battery for seemingly no reason, and you can keep an eye on some things to stop that. First thing you want to note is the radios in your device. Are you using a 4G device or a 3G device or an HSPA Plus device, or are you keeping it on Wi-Fi only? For the most part, and this is a general rule, 4G radios use the most amount of power, and that uses a little bit more than 3G radios, and those 3G radios use a little bit more than Wi-Fi only radios. If you have a 4G device, keeping it on your Wi-Fi network when you're at home is going to save a lot of battery. If it's only a 3G device, switching it to Wi-Fi may get you a little bit more battery, but it won't be as drastic of a difference. And if it's a Wi-Fi only tablet, some tablets actually have the option to turn off Wi-Fi when they're asleep. This will probably stop you from getting notifications if you need that internet access to get your app data, but you'll be able to get a little bit more battery if you turn Wi-Fi off when the device is asleep. But as a general rule of thumb, disable any radios that you're not using, like Bluetooth or GPS if you don't need it, or things like that. Next is the CPU, and this is sort of a silent behind-the-scenes killer. Sometimes there's wake locks going on where your screen is off, but the CPU is doing things. Some devices, like for example the Asus Transformer Pad Infinity, have performance modes. High performance mode lets the CPU go all the way up to the highest 1.7 GHz. Balanced mode will let it go up to maybe 1.4 GHz, and battery saver mode will tend to limit it to more like 1 GHz. The harder your CPU is working, the more cycles it's going through, the more battery you're going to be using. So as a general rule of thumb for CPU, basically try to keep it as low as you need to if you're losing battery life. Now, if it's possible on your platform, you can actually use an application to look at how much battery each individual application is using on your device. Actually, with Android, it's built into the operating system. And if you take a look at this, you will almost always find that the #1 battery killer on tablets, on smartphones, even on Wi-Fi only laptops, Chromebooks, mobile devices that use batteries, is the display. Keeping a huge panel backlit for that long and letting you use it and being responsive and constantly changing and shifting pixels and colors and everything takes the most battery out of anything. So your screen is what is killing your battery. I can almost guarantee that. So here is one of my favorite apps for that. It's called Battery Widget Reborn. Don't snicker at that, but it gives us a shortcut to the Android battery usage, and this will tell you what's been using the most battery on your device. So you can scroll down to the bottom here. Gmail uses some battery, Chrome uses some, Maps uses some, and above all, our screen is what's using the most. We click on our screen, and you can see how long our screen has been on. That's our screen on time. 1 hour and 3 minutes of actually using the phone while the display is on. So to get your display to use less battery, you can do a couple things. #1 big thing you can do is display brightness. A lot of phones have automatic brightness, and that tends to be a little bit aggressive and keeps the display brightness below what you tend to think it should be. But you can still read what's on the screen. Second thing you can do is just use manual display brightness. So if you know that you're going to be going outside, you can turn up the display brightness, but as soon as you come back indoors, you can turn down the display brightness because you don't really need it that bright indoors. The second thing is screen timeout. And your screen might time out after maybe 30 seconds or a minute after you don't do anything and it just turns the display off. And that might not seem like a lot, but you can actually turn that down on pretty much every device out there that has a screen. So you can turn it down to maybe 10 or 15 seconds, and that'll save you a lot more battery than usually people think it does. And a little niche tip, if you're using an OLED display, like for example the Galaxy S3 does, all the pixels that are black are not lit up. So if you use a black background, you won't have to light any of those pixels. If you use the black themed applications, not gray doesn't help, but black themed, then those pixels don't get lit up and you'll be saving a lot of battery with black apps and black wallpaper. Ever since I've gotten my Nexus 7 and I just use it around the house for checking like Twitter or using maps or little things like that, I noticed that my phone, I end the day with 35 to 45% battery without any attempt to conserve. So definitely a tip. I know it's not an option for everyone to, have a spare device because obviously that's like a spare battery, but know that that usually helps quite a bit. Now I'm realizing if you're on an iPhone, you can do almost none of the things that I just said you can do if you're on an Android device or maybe if you're on Windows Phone. The only thing I would suggest is auto brightness. Auto brightness a lot of times will take your screen brightness way below what you think it should. Take that off auto brightness. Use manual brightness control. Add a widget. Oh wait, no. keep a shortcut on your home screen so you can go to the brightness settings and always have that handy and turn your display down when you don't need it to be that bright. So there you go, guys. Those are some tips on how to save battery on your mobile device. Let me know what kind of battery tips you have or what kind of battery life you get. I know some people will be like, oh, I have a Droid and it gets like no battery, but bear with me. You can try some of the tips I gave and hopefully it'll help you out. Give it a thumbs up if this does help, and you go ahead and try some of these tips. Either way, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.